You sent an email that was
No.
and I was sitting in my car, I was between meetings here, so my phone was dying, so I left the car charging. All right, I'm gonna call the meeting, we're good online? Okay, I'm calling the meeting to order. Would everybody rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with justice for all. Okay, first up is the presentation of the Irvington Woods Deer Impact Assessment and Vegetation Survey by Zoe Hamilton Von Bauer, who's the chair of the Irvington Woods Committee. And I think everybody has the report. I don't know if you're planning on going through it, but I'll cede the floor to you.
Thank you. Good evening to everyone. Nice to see everyone after summer. I was not planning on going through the presentation or through the document extensively because it's long and I trust you would all read it over on your own. But I just wanted to go over some points about it and also talk to you about having been trained by Danielle for monitoring going forward. So the purpose of the survey was to create a baseline of the vegetation in the park. And the list of plants is based on a list that from the U.S. Forest Service that Danielle has used repeatedly in her research and is a standard for the Northeast. In addition, she provided us a list of wildflower species that are most sensitive to deer browse, and should show the relief from the deer pressure as the numbers go down. Those are the things that we will see more of first.
The survey is once a year or once?
Yes, the survey will be once a year. However, we will be keeping an eye on the woods over the summer because the optimal time to conduct the survey is a bit dependent on how rainy a season it is. And so it is ideal to catch some of the wildflowers when they're blooming to be able to, to help identify them and also catch the trees before they start losing their leaves. So her recommendation is to conduct the survey before mid-August. So it's sort of last week of July through mid-August is the optimal time. And but the good news from her survey is that there's a seed bank there. There are seedlings and there are wildflowers growing in the woods. They are young. They're only 1 to 2 years old. Everything more than 2 years old has been browsed, and there really isn't anything higher than 6 to 8 inches, except for the beech. She calls them suckers. They are they're shoots sent out from beech trees, so they're not actual seedlings themselves. But so that's the good news is that our woods are trying to grow and regenerate themselves naturally, and therefore the expectation is that with relief, they will be able to grow into juvenile and eventually adult plants. One of the things that I didn't know but I learned is that, and you will note in the survey, is that there's nothing growing above 8 inches. The reason that there are seedlings growing beneath 8 inches is because deer do not like to drop their heads all the way to the ground to feed because it limits their visibility. And so that's why these seedlings do exist. But as soon as they grow above that baseline height, the deer right now are eating them. So we didn't really find any surprises in terms of there is no real growth besides these very young plants. But the good news is that they are trying to grow, and so we believe that this is a worthwhile effort. As this was the first year of monitoring, we have no data to compare it to. So Danielle included some data from T-Town that she had collected to show, not only give us a comparison of sort of where their baseline was after, at the beginning of deer monitoring, but also what we should expect. Our woods, every site is unique, but to give a general idea of where the growth should happen, and some things will grow better than others. There's no real way to know about that until we wait and see. We had 6 people volunteer for Danielle's training. Myself, Charlotte Binns, Warwick Norton, Maxwell Carpenter, Bruce Bell, and Chet Kerr. We were all trained. Chet was unfortunately unavailable, but the rest of us were trained by Danielle over 2 days. We went out into the woods. She walked us through how she chose her sites, and then how to collect the data, survey the sites, count the plants, what to look for in terms of understanding what has been browsed. She taught us about how to identify the plants as they mature, and we've created a working reference which has identification notes for each plant as well as photos, which we will keep adding to, and will be available to all volunteers as they get involved in the program. As time changes, people will move on, but we have this reference which everybody will be able to use. And
there were, I guess, 8 plots set up. Forgive me, but I can't remember, what was the size of those? Well, if you know, sorry, that's an
I don't
unfair
remember off the top of my
question.
head,
Sorry.
but I want to say they were 10 feet diameter.
Okay.
And it's, to be honest, right now, it's easy to do the survey because there's not a lot of growth. It will get more complicated, and she has taught us how to sort of change our surveying so that just to account for, large numbers. But
do you know if any were that were selected were near, let's say, evidence of beech leaf disease? And I'm asking, the real question I'm asking is, are any near where the canopy might open up and you might have sort of a different growth pattern?
I believe there is at least one plot. I mean, when we went into the woods for the training, we were definitely amongst beech trees, and so I think yes.
Okay.
There's at least one. But the main thing that she was looking for in her surveying the plots was conformity, and just in terms of types of trees growing. We stayed away from the reservoir where the red pines are growing, and so we should, and not everything on the U.S. Forest Service list was traced or was found, but so we'll see what comes up over time. But we have, and we will also be, I personally will just be keeping an eye on what the invasives are doing, just because of the work that we're trying to keep the invasives at bay. And next summer, Danielle will aid us, once we've completed our survey, she will aid us in how to run the data and run reports. She didn't do that now because she
No comparison.
No, well,
Other than detail.
and also just, she knew that it was important for us to survey the property ourselves and then learning the next step, which is, it's a little bit of a challenge year to year because you only do this once a year, which is why we built up the reference for notes to be able to, remember plants and everyone took their own notes and we're compiling them. But Danielle has said that she will be on hand to help us run the report next year. But one question I have is the expectation of the board for what kind of report you would like next year, where we do have a couple of people who have scientific backgrounds, but Danielle this is her life's work, that she has a PhD. So I would like to establish with the board sort of what kind of.
It's a tough question. It might be, and if anybody
And you
else
may
has
not
an
know right
opinion.
now,
Yeah,
but that's something
I
to
mean, it
talk
might be
about.
better to, I'll call it, have an oral report, come to a meeting, tell us what you found.
Sure.
And then we can decide how we want to put that into writing.
Sure.
On the record.
I would want to see something on writing in the record.
Well, yeah, no, there's no doubt that we have to do it, but if they're asking how we want it presented as a matter of record, hearing what they found first might be useful.
I don't put stock in that. I would want to see one.
Okay.
I mean, I guess I would say something slightly different, which is what I think I'm hearing you say, is you want to sort of hear from us what you might want to see, because I think in not just form, but like what we want
What
to.
information?
Correct, which I think is fair, because I do think that there's a lot there, just in even what we did,
Yeah.
right? We're talking to people, there's different ways that people want to measure growth. So I think we'd have to think about that and get back to you, but I think that's a fair question.
Yeah, Danielle's report, she went incredibly in depth, so I'm not sure anyone is.
Got it. I misunderstood where your question was going,
Yeah,
and you just helped me with it.
She's not going to be involved in making this report, the expert, the PhD.
No, she will be, presumably, yes.
I don't believe she's gonna be involved in writing the report, she's gonna help us
Well,
with
if we
how
need
to.
to, we could pay,
She was-
I'd pay for it, but
Yeah.
I get that.
Or
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah.
Well, obviously, the comparison we're looking for are, and you know this just from what you're collecting, the vegetation that was there, the vegetation you're looking at now, the height of that vegetation, and perhaps some comparisons to T-Town or other locations to see if, how we're tracking. I know that it's an imperfect comparison.
Right,
That's what I'd be looking for.
okay,
And again, if we need her to provide some assistance you said she's gonna help you, manage the data, I guess. I'm not sure if that was the exact word you used. Presumably that means she's gonna help you put it into spreadsheets or?
she's gonna show us how to analyze it and put it into graphs and pivot tables like she
Got
did
it.
in this
Okay.
grant report.
So, understood. So the difference might be that you would like to have the actual person physically, Danielle, physically present when we go through the materials. Because if she set it up right, she set it up such that each year you're feeding the spreadsheets or feeding the other
Exactly.
graphs that we can then look at.
Yes, and we have those spreadsheets, we have all of that
Okay.
already. She just hasn't walked us through the step of how to,
Okay. So you might mention to her that we're probably gonna be interested in having her come back at least for that meeting. And if it costs something, it costs something. I think it's worth doing. Does that work for everybody?
And that's, I then just wondered if anyone had any questions about the report, if there were,
That's it. Much appreciated. Anybody else? Cut anyone off? Do you have anything?
yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you, and I'm very grateful to the people who have, who volunteered, and I think we have a very good group, very sincere, and so we're off to a good start.
Great, thank you. Okay. Next up are announcements. First is Rocktoberfest, which will happen on Saturday, September 28th, from 2 until, it says 2 until 10, isn't it, 2 till 9?
Maybe it's 9.
Okay.
Yeah, I apologize for that.
There's an admission fee, food trucks, beer and wine will be sold, and I think we'll have more details coming out shortly
Yes.
through the village emails.
You're looking for volunteers.
That's in my, yeah, that'll be my letter.
I just wanted to get that out there.
Yes, we are looking for volunteers for a variety of, go ahead.
No, sorry, I'm just looking to see how many people are
Ah.
in the city.
Well, that's okay. People may listen to it later.
I'm just kidding.
Yes.
People watching on video too.
All right.
That's actually true.
Second up, checks over 25,000. Strategem Security, there was a check for $38,962.17 to install Matheson Park camera upgrades. I assume those are used by the police department. PKF O'Connor Davies LLP for finishing the village audit, received a check for $30,775. And JC Land and Site Development Inc. For work on the Scenic Hudson Park Courts Improvement Project. I think that's basketball and pickleball. There was a check for $223,024.10. Let's see here. And then there's a tax cert to Joseph St. Ange Esquire as attorney for Nora Capital LLC. Check for $76,482.65. Pacific Trans Global Construction Corp., I assume that's not constriction, but construction. For the theater HVAC general contracting, received a check for $118,483.54. And AAA Emergency Supply Company for the purchase of fire turnout gear received a check for $29,820. Next announcement is the Mayor's Monarch Pledge Day, and this is, I think this is nationwide. Am I
Yes.
correct about that? Yeah, that we're proclaiming October 5th as Monarch Pledge Day, and it is really an effort across the board to create diverse habitat that can support monarch butterfly populations. I think I've got that right, yes. Okay, correspondence. First one is from Camilla Furata, thanking us for the hard work we do. A few questions to add to Chris Lando's excellent questions. This has to do with the senior center solar panel and battery installation. Have contractors been hired? And who's going to monitor the cost of this? Final cost of construction projects always increase due to change orders. So the answer that I gave her is that it's not a project yet. When it is a project, we will, we have a bidding process, and the lowest bidder, with certain exceptions, generally for what, emergencies and small projects and things of that sort, gets selected, and it's publicly announced. And in terms of monitoring the cost of the project, that probably happens in several ways. One, village staff is monitoring it. Two, the checks that are issued, I have to look at every one. The village clerk treasurer looks at every one. And when they're over 25,000, they get publicly announced at this meeting. So there's some pretty good checks and balances on that particular concern. Next up is from Abby Shalom. There's, over the past few months, there's been, and this relates to Matheson Park, there's been a change in policy in Matheson Park. We've seen a significant deterioration. Please look at these examples. And she's got a whole list of items that most people would consider garbage, and mentions of smoke from marijuana in the park and the pier parking lot. Trash is unacceptable. Do we want to continue inviting large crowds and strangers who apparently trash our park? And complaining that she can't sit and enjoy the park, and that police and volunteers are unable to guarantee the park is clean and safe. She's seen people drinking out of open bottles. I think opening the park has failed to make Irvington seem more welcoming to strangers. The park is full of litter. And then we received a bunch of photos that I think were included in the record. Please restore the peace, safety, and cleanliness to Madison Park immediately. The general public is clearly bringing crime and litter. That the particular decision of access to that park has been made, and I'm not about to bring that up for a change. But to the extent that the park has a lot of litter, or there is behavior that's illegal, those are things that we would address. I would recommend that anybody who sees illegal behavior calls the police. It's the first thing that I would do. And with regard to the trash, I'm told, and you can correct me, I'm pointing to our recreation and park superintendent. I believe that garbage is collected twice a week and that the dumpster itself is emptied once a week. Is that
So the Parks Department every morning go in and empty the garbage. And then we have a dumpster area, DPW picks up twice a week.
Got it. Okay, so I stand corrected. The Parks Department takes the garbage out every day and puts it in a dumpster, which is emptied twice a week. So the only question I have is if I'm not gonna question where these pictures didn't come from the park. I assume they came from the park and that the writer is being forthright. So my only question would be maybe have the folks who are picking up the garbage look beyond the garbage bin. I'm sure they do it anyway. Just walk the park every once in a while just to see if
I
there's.
did speak with them and no
Yeah.
one's really seeing what was listed.
Okay. And I didn't get an answer, but I did ask the writer, where are you seeing this?
Right,
So,
that might be.
The photos have no context, they're
Right.
close-ups of like a bottle cap, it could be
Yeah.
like,
I know.
it could be in, China, we wouldn't know,
I mean, I want to say something. Since we got that letter, I've gone to the park many times and I've taken my own pictures.
Yeah.
Just about, because I think it's unfair to say the park is littered with garbage, because it's really not.
Yep.
I was in the playground area way longer than I wanted to be with Ava. But I did see like a candy wrapper, right? Like a straw, like those things are gonna happen in any place where you have people. Children, I think some of the things were so small that I think you could see them falling and people not even seeing them, but I think I also took some like long range pictures, like the garbage is not like, the park is not like strewn about with garbage, right? I think that you guys do a fantastic job of keeping the park clean. I don't feel unsafe, I think people were enjoying the park. I went on many, many different occasions, so it's unfortunate if someone has that experience. I do think if they have real concerns, then they should call the Parks Department, talk to the people who are there, or call the police. If you really, because we shouldn't have citizens, residents approaching. We're not like a militia, so people should not go and like police, people in the park. But I've been there many, many times now, and I have not seen that, so. I think you guys do an amazing job of keeping it very clean.
I think you would express similar sentiment maybe in an email to me.
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, I'm there pretty often with my
Yeah.
young kids, and I think it's great that people are using and enjoying the park, and it sounds like the Parks Department is trying to keep up with, the increased usage, and I think unsafe and litter strewn about is a little, unfair, I think, to the student in the park.
Yeah, and to the extent somebody does contact you with a complaint, ask them where it is, where's, it's not helpful to say there's garbage in the park. Yeah, so, all right.
Thanks, Mike.
Next is from Charlotte Binns, support for solar on the senior center. And it is a collection of residents, 2, 4, 6, 8, maybe 15 people, saying, we're writing to express enthusiastic support for the initiative to install solar panels, hopefully with battery storage at the senior center. We believe transitioning to solar energy will bring numerous benefits to the village. It's sustainable, eco-friendly, and we can reduce our reliance on fossil fuels, lower our carbon footprint. the installation of solar panels will likely result in significant savings on energy costs. And this move aligns perfectly with our shared values of environmental stewardship and fiscal responsibility and helps meet our climate action plan emissions reduction goals. In recent years, we've seen increased instances of power blackouts due to severe weather events. This proposed project offers a reliable and sustainable solution for maintaining power at shelters during such emergencies. We can ensure that during emergencies, that heating, cooling, and refrigeration for food and medications and communication devices and other essential services will be available even when the grid is down. Thanks for your dedication to improving our village. And again, this is still the project that is in the, let's get it, see if we can get a grant for it, but it's helpful to have that support. Okay. Next is, and I always get her, the pronunciation of her last, Lisa again?
Again,
Thank you. Get it right. I don't always get it wrong. And this is gratitude for our beautiful Matheson Park. As the summer comes to a close, I just wanted to share my gratitude for the beautiful treasure that is Matheson Park in its current incarnation. When my family first moved to Irvington, and their kids were toddlers, they chose a nursery school out of town because they, they didn't appreciate how difficult it would be to meet other families. And we thought it would surely be able to do so at the Village Park in Matheson. We were shocked when we went down to the waterfront and found it deserted, totally deserted. Coming from the city, it was unfathomable that this beautiful resource right on the water would sit empty and unused. It was not a place we were ever able to run into a neighbor or make a new friend when our kids were little, and that was a huge loss. When we go to Matheson Park now, it is wholly transformed, thanks to the wonderful work of the Playground Committee and a policy of being welcoming to all. The playground resounds with the laughter of children of all ages. Families make plans to meet up and run into people they know, and we can bring our friends who are visiting to introduce them to the beautiful park. Let's see, my children still enjoy the playground, even though they're older. Let's see. So thank you for your stewardship of this beautiful treasure, and I want to share that I support allocating resources needed to keep it so. It makes sense to me that when a park is more utilized, that might require more maintenance. Allocating those resources sure beats having a desolate park that benefits no one but the geese. Okay. Let's see. Next up is public comment. So I think somebody back there wanted to make a comment. Usually what we do is have you come up to the mic and just tell us who you are and tell us what you'd like. It's usually a 3-minute limit.
Where you live.
And where you live, yes.
Not address, but generally.
Yes. All right, is that one working?
Right, yeah, right there.
That goes to the people.
Okay.
this one here?
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, no problem.
It's just so if there are people
Okay.
listening, they can hear you.
Okay. Good evening, my name is Rebecca Sunshine. As a Greenberg resident and board member of the League of Humane Voters of New York, I strongly condemn this proposed cull and amending the village code to permit bow hunting. The cull is wrong and misguided for many reasons. Bow hunting is not a humane, safe, or effective means of deer management. I believe, along with many others, that all of hunting, bow hunting is particularly cruel. The deer shot that are not recovered may suffer for days, weeks, or months before dying. The Humane Society of the United States said, "We believe bow hunting is both ineffective and inhumane, and we strongly oppose its use as an urban deer management tool." Numerous studies reveal that for every animal struck and killed by an arrow, there is one animal struck and unretrieved. That's a wounding loss of 50%. Thus, for every deer initially killed, at least one deer is left wounded to die after prolonged agony from septic infection, peritonitis, blood loss, or other complications. Another concern is the likelihood that the deer will be lured or baited. How will the hunter get the deer to come to the particular tree stand where he is working? Baiting and luring unsuspecting deer to their deaths is especially malicious. Studies by the Humane Society of the United States have shown, and is cited by the New York State Humane Association, hunting does not control the number of deer, but results in the females becoming more fertile to compensate for the diminished herd. It increases the availability of browse and the likelihood of multiple births. It may only have temporary results before other deer move into the area and reproduction increases. The advantage of fertility control projects over culling is that you don't contend with the continual bounce back in deer numbers. While deer are made the scapegoats, studies by the Humane Society of the United States and the Carey Institute have shown that deer density is not a leading factor in the loss of flora, mature trees, or decline in tree regeneration. Rather, pollutants, insect damage, climatic changes, and canopies of mature trees blocking the sun and more play a major role. Yet this plan is to callously kill the deer and see what happens. Studies by the director of the Yale Institute for Biospheric Studies found that in Rock Creek Park in Maryland, forests are self-thinning regardless of the presence of deer, as a comparison was made between fenced and non-fenced areas. Ohio State University and National Park Service scientists discovered that reducing the number of deer in forests and parks might unexpectedly reduce the number of reptiles, amphibians, and insects in that area. And new findings suggest that high deer populations might be creating a richer soil mixture through their droppings. The bows and arrows that will be used in this hunt are not the type used for archery, but are extremely dangerous. Compound bows, which are likely to be used, are powerful lethal weapons. Anyone along with their children and pets in proximity of this hunt are at risk. The town's attitude toward this hunt is, let's try it and see what happens, and if it doesn't work, we'll make changes. This may be fine for non-lethal, moderate measures, but is flippant when it comes to needlessly inflicting misery on harmless creatures and putting the public in danger. We hope that you will have more regard for our constituents with valid concerns about this cull and the strong recognition that animal life is precious. We urge Irvington to take the smart, safe, and compassionate route and abandon this barbaric and ineffective bow hunt. If you believe deer management is really needed, there are humane and safe options available, such as female contraception, deer repellents, and tree cages, or let nature take its own course. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comments? Oh, sorry. Sorry about that.
I can turn this?
Yeah.
Hello. Thank you for your time. I'm Kylie Blackman, Animal Defenders of Westchester. In addition, of course, to supporting everything that Ms. Sunshine said, it seems that what I'm hearing is that to save the wildflowers, instead of considering fencing deer-resistant plants and a number of other things, indeed, if there's a connection between the deer and there's not other things like she mentioned, pollutants and stuff. This is how you're proceeding, this is what I want you to see, what you're contributing to. And this is a beautiful village here. Town, village?
Village.
Village, thank you, I was close. This is what you're going to be bringing in to this village. And it's incongruous, if nothing else. This is also, which I was going to mention, a deer killed by a crossbow, which is, I don't know if they're going to use it, it's an especially horrible, painful way to kill these animals, which bow hunting in itself is the worst. If you were looking to do this avenue, it's the worst thing you could possibly do. In addition, in case you think other animals could be affected by this activity, which they could, no matter what efforts there are to restrict it. These are dogs that have been shot with someone's arrow. Don't know if it was the DEC, whoever you're looking to get, but it can happen that other animals can run right in front of the target. And as far as the target, I might mention that wind factors, sounds, all of this is going to affect bow hunting, which is already, it's an iffy skill as it is. And then you add those factors in, of course, there's nothing perfect, and that's when you get these sort of errors. This can happen, there's no guarantee, no one is that perfect. And I think to bring it, I don't want, obviously as an advocate, I don't want to put it anywhere, but to bring it in to this beautiful village, it makes no sense. It belies your website talks about being a welcoming venue, and it makes you think about all sorts of nice bucolic things that you're gonna expect here, and then you're going to contribute to this. I ask you, I don't know if I need the mic, I ask you to consider another way. There's many agencies that can help, real help, in terms of what you can try to avoid this kind of ugliness, which is also, as Mr. Sunshine referred to, and which I agree with the statistics on, it's not effective. There's better things you can do to save your wildflowers. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
I do have one online, when you're ready.
Oh,
When you're
okay.
ready.
Well, we got, this is public comment?
Well,
All right.
well, no, not anymore.
Okay.
You lost the person online, you said.
They put their hand down.
Hello, my name is Jorge Magallon. I live here in Irvington. First of all, I want to take this opportunity to say thank you to the mayor and trustees for your guys' work. I know as volunteers, you do a lot to make Irvington a better place, and I want to say thank you.
I'd argue that the families also contribute, since
Yes, they
your
do.
spouse and my spouse is
Yes,
here,
they do.
so.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do.
For him to thank myself.
Yes, I'll give myself a round of applause later on. So I want to, first of all, second what I think Lisa again said before, as far as, I didn't actually used to take my kids to Matheson Park really before. I would go to Pearson Park to, especially my older daughter, because there was people there. Now that there are actually people at Matheson Park, I actually take, we were just there, I think, yesterday. I definitely use it a lot more. So I actually welcome the fact that it's being used more often. I don't witness trash there. It's one of the cleaner parks, I would say, in the area. So I guess I'm responding to Ms. Shalom's, Ms. Shalom's letter. I also think it's, it's good for business. I was watching the last, meeting, and I think it was Judy from, My Shireen Moore was talking about how the businesses have now even opened up on Sundays because because of with the influx of people, there's more business here. The other thing, I remember our former mayor mentioning how we would be open to new grants for the park if it was open to the public. So that's an influx of money I'm sure that we'd be, we wouldn't want to say no to. And really, the last thing, I don't know about graffiti. I know it was mentioned in the letter. I now frequent the park, so I don't know I definitely don't know what trash they're talking about. There's little things here and there, and what graffiti I've never seen. So I'm not sure, the letter sounds a little alarmist in my view. If it was a goose poop letter, okay, all right. So there's a lot of goose poop there, but other than that, it's a bucolic park. So I just want to say that, yeah. Thank you very much.
Appreciate it. back. Oh, yes. Come on up.
And yes.
And you just turned back. All right, tell them to hang on if you can.
Hello, David Zweibil, Continent Street. I would love to comment on both of these items. First of all, I third to Lisa Ginn's letter, and I can add that when my children were young, 25 years ago, going to Matheson Park there was nobody there, and that sandbox I was afraid to let my kids play in the sandbox. It was a mess. Through the transformation with what the playground committee has done, the work that Joe Archino put into it, it is a complete transformation now. I'm there now with grandchildren, and it finally feels safe to have little kids running around in there where it didn't before. I agree with the last speaker that it is one of the more pristine parks in the area. Could anything be better? Is there a bad person? Is there, some of our teenagers that maybe do something when they shouldn't? Yes. But I think we should be proud of it. I don't think it is dangerous. So wonderful park. Secondly, on the deer management issue, I don't want to be disrespectful, but I have to challenge some of the statements that have been made here. Clearly, these folks believe in what they believe and have every right to say what they have. But they're bringing a set of facts that have nothing to do with the program that the village, is choosing to implement. Starting off with this fact of bow hunting. There is general agreement, I will say, that bow hunting is not the best. You didn't authorize bow hunting. The village did not authorize bow hunting. The deer committee, who's been studying this for 2 years, that would be the last thing that we would want. What we are doing is deer management using a professional archer who has a proven record, not of 50%, as was quoted, but of 98% instantaneous death, no problems. Never has there been an experience with any other animal than a deer getting this hunter's arrow. This is truly a level that most other places that are implementing deer management throughout the country are nowhere near as humane as what this village has proposed with its program. I will also indicate there was a statement, something about the ratio of deer and the undergrowth. Maybe that exists somewhere. Maybe it existed in Washington Park, but it doesn't exist in New York State. In New York State, the quantity of deer in the woods is controlled by the number of hunting licenses that they issue, and they monitor the number of licenses they issue to create a circumstance where they end up with a population of 7 to 10 deer per square mile. And the state has put in much scientific research to determine that populations above that do not allow forest regeneration. And that is pretty clear with the entirety of New York State. So what our program, we can't issue hunting permits like the state does for all its forests. So we're doing the best humane practice to have it work within the village. I would also like to particularly commend the village for, besides looking at a program that's intending to solve the problem, to spending the extra money to do the research and the follow-up, which Zoe had presented earlier. That's a 20-page document. I don't know how many of the outside the village or how many of the people that are looking at this have read through that document in detail. But we're not going about, this is not sort of an off-the-cuff, slipshod method of doing what we're doing. This is science, and you need to be commended for spending the money to do the science, to do the research, to find what I would say is a premier method of deer management that is ultra humane. And you're spending the money to do that backup research, which will make our village actually a leader in the area of the right way to do a deer management program.
Thank you. Let me make a suggestion. No, go ahead, David, sorry. Let me make a suggestion. If you'll wait 5 minutes, we're going to have a hearing on that particular issue, which is really, otherwise I'm gonna be listening to pro and con for the next 20 minutes. I'll only say this, and then we're gonna move on so we can get to the point where you can come back up. I know there are differences of opinion on this board, I know there are differences of opinion in the community, but we spent a considerable amount of time, all the members of this board, talking to not only people who might favor or have implemented programs like that, but to organizations like PETA and the Humane Society and others who have implemented programs like contraception and fencing to really make an educated decision. And while I happen to be a vegan and I'm not particularly enamored of hunting deer, I won't use the word hunting because it's not exactly what we're doing. I am comfortable with the decision that I made based on the facts that I ascertained, and I spent a considerable amount of time doing that. Let us get to the hearing, and then anybody else who wants to get up and speak is certainly welcome.
Will you be able to speak after the hearing?
During the hearing, how's that?
Will be able to
Yes,
speak.
absolutely.
Thank you.
We have two people.
Oh, I'm sorry, we got other public comment, go ahead.
Michael Hanna.
Okay, Michael?
Hi.
Hi.
Hi. So I just had two statements and a question regarding Matheson Park. The only real problem I see with it is the one that's always been there, which is the geese. But I very much, like some of the other commenters, enjoy being able to wave and say hi to people, actually see people at Matheson, unlike prior to the change in policy. So I think it's been a real boon and benefit for our community, and I thank the board then and now for supporting that. And the Parks Direct Department's doing a great job, so kudos to them. I'm also very excited to see that the theater will be reopening soon. I reposted one of an article about that, and a lot of other folks in the community were also equally excited. So that's great news. And then my question is around the deer management program. It's a one I raised before, but I just wanted to follow up with this question, which is, I understand the reasoning around the effort in the woods, but when you talk to people in our community, neighboring communities, obviously the deer are all over. So I'm wondering, I've seen posted here and there some talk about how Irvington is leading the way, but is there actually any conversation? Is Irvington helping spur conversation in surrounding communities about supporting this effort so that it has a chance of having a regional approach to a regional problem?
The answer is emphatically yes. Larry, our village administrator, and I attend the village officials committee meeting once a month. And Dobbs Ferry has repeatedly asked for details. In fact, did you say yesterday or today you were talking to their manager? Today you were talking to their village manager about what we are doing, how we are doing it. So they are interested in the process. Hastings, I believe, tried fencing, not particularly successfully so far, but the fence keeps getting knocked down or left open, knocked down by trees. So the answer to your question is yes. Is there a possibility that deer will cross borders? Yes, there is. And that's just something we'll have to address, which is why we are measuring the vegetation, because that will tell us whether we have reached a level, irrespective of whether deer respect community borders. Hopefully that answers your question. And then I'd just like to make an observation that all the comments about Matheson Park being such a dangerous place makes me question my own parenting skills, since we brought our kids there 25 to 28 years ago and they played in the sandbox and made friends. I don't know how we managed to do that, but it worked. Anyway, you got another one up there, Larry? Or?
No.
Okay. Mary? Hello?
I think she's muted.
Oh, you may be muted. You have to undo your own. mute.
Hello.
Yes, now we hear you.
Okay, great. Thank you. I just want to say that I think there's going to be an economic fallout if you proceed with this bow and arrow program. I think that people who are opposed to this place.
Mary, can I ask where you're from? Since
I'm from
everyone-
Yonkers, New York.
Thank you. Okay, go ahead.
Okay. I think that people, visitors, if they learn that bow and arrow hunting is taking place, they are going to stop coming. This is going to affect your businesses, your profit margin, etc.
Anything else?
Plenty, but not enough for tonight. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Any other public comments? Okay. Consent agenda. First off, in the minutes, where the reference to Judy Brazon's comments were, I modified the sentence slightly just to make it a little more accurate. This was, I think it would be page 39 of the big package. And it would be the second sentence, Judy Brazon commented. My comments were, it should say, Judy Brazon commented that earlier that morning she overheard a representative of the building department on the steps of Village Hall warning the owner of the new coffee shop, which she claimed brings a great deal of new business into Irvington, about certain building code violations. I did that because it implied that it was Ed Marin, which it was not, the way it was written, and because it read as if it was just a threat as opposed to the subject of the threat, so I added building code violations to it. If anybody has an objection to that, this would be a good time to raise it. Okay. And then the second comment, since we're doing this as a consent agenda, even though I've mangled it once again, the appointment of personnel in the Rec and Parks Department, 2 people are being added. Dana Bucci, Program Supervisor at $25 an hour, and Daniel Cohen, Program Assistant at $20 per hour. Other than that, nothing has changed in the consent agenda. So I'm moving to adopt the consent agenda. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Now we are going, I'm opening the, do I need a motion to do this, to open the public hearing?
Yeah.
Yes,
Yes, okay. Then,
Wait, did you do the?
to open the hearing.
yeah,
yes.
all right, hold on a second. Perhaps that's in the, just have to scroll through and find it. Well, I'll just make it up.
Well, no, it's just, yeah, no, the
I meant-
resolution.
You don't need the resolution.
Fine, okay, I understood.
Making a motion to open the public hearing,
Fine.
that's for the document.
Got it. Motion to open the public hearing to consider a local law amending the village code to permit bow hunting in limited circumstances.
That's-
and-
That's for later, that's for later.
Understood.
Yeah, okay.
Okay,
So second on
do
the
I have a
motion.
second?
Second.
All in favor?
Okay.
Aye.
Okay, now is when, thank you for your patience. If you want to make further comments, now would be the time.
Thank you. I want to address the gentleman who says or not we actually, the village itself shouldn't call it hunting. That's in the language of the proposed amendment. That's in the language,
I
it's
think-
bow
Please address,
hunting.
You have to address the board.
Oh,
please.
sorry.
It's okay. Sorry.
Just wanted to be clear that that is in the language. You have it in front of you. I'm sure that other people would like to call it something else, like management, harvesting, taking. This is all ways to discuss what you're doing and what it is. What you should put in the amendment and everything is deer killing. Killing. Anything else is going to muddy the waters, and that's deliberate. That's a deliberate effort. Hunting is not a control. There's statistically more deer now than, I think it's 10 years ago. I'll send you guys the statistics about this. Hunting is not a control. Hunting is done for people. There are people who enjoy this. Frankly, to me, if the village is saying you're going to lead the way of the deer killing effort in Westchester, I wouldn't brag about that. You're killing, these are sentient, intelligent animals. Many people enjoy seeing the deer and their babies. If you truly believe, which is controversial, that there's nothing else you can do, then consider would consider the fencing, consider planting trunks, something. If it's really true, which I think you should look into, if it is really true that it's the deer who will keep coming, that's definite also, as Ms. Sunshine said. If that's what you believe, you have to look at this a different way, and not as you're going to be the leaders in killing. The gentleman referred to me or both of us as we didn't research. And I have to argue and complain about that. That is an awful presumption. You shouldn't presume about anyone, but I'm an animal advocate with my own group for, it's got to be 30 years. You can pretty much ask me anything. If I don't know, I will say, I don't know. But I don't want to appreciate anyone saying to me, well, I didn't research. I put my own time into this with my own group, and I put aside my own needs. You have to see a doctor. No, it'll wait. We're going to research more about, in this case, the deer, or whatever the issue is going to be. We worked with geese in Mamaroneck, different things that come up. I'm working now on pig racing. I don't do my own personal business because there's always another thing to research and look into. So no, sir, we always research, always. And yes, more deer will come. And that's it. Please reconsider this. I'm going to send you some statistics. It's just deer killing is not the way to go for the reasons we've said. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments for the public hearing? Oh. Assuming nobody's online, yes, Larry?
No one would hand up now.
I didn't think I'd be back up here. I just want to have to respond to the gentleman as well. As Ms. Blackman mentioned, bow hunting is actually described in your alert and in the law, so that's incorrect. This gentleman was talking about the wounding rate. I've been fighting the bow hunt in the Cull in Rockefeller State Park for like many, many years. And unfortunately, it's untrue what he is saying. even, they say they have the most experienced bow hunters, they have to, have the license and their experience, blah, blah, blah. I have someone who did research, and there are many, and the park manager themselves said many of the deer are seriously wounded and do not, and they don't, in the fall, they don't have tracking because there's no snow, no footprints, and they sometimes can't find the animals, and sometimes they find them, later on in serious condition and in pain. These animals have been suffering for I don't know how long until they're found to only be shot again in a vital organ. It's just horrifying. We talk about these things in the abstract hunting, but I invite anyone to go onto I also want to mention, you mentioned T-Town, and you were consulting them as far as plants. I don't know if they still are, but T-Town has been doing a horrific cull where they bait the deer at night, and hundreds of deer, many deer are killed at night. They come with their families, with the babies, and they're shot at night. And I know people have witnessed this, and it's just horrific. So, you can't talk about these things lightly. Another comment was about, the DEC, and first of all, I also say this is all based on scientific research. It's these organizations that we cited. They are reputable organizations who've done a lot of work. You talk about the DEC and that they do their research, and that's why they're controlling deer. It's BS. People complain, with all the hunting that's going on, I don't know, many thousands of deer that are killed yearly. Why are there still so many deer if there's all this hunting going on? It's because the DEC manipulates the hunting with their bag limits, when the males could be killed, when the fawns, doe can be killed, when the bucks can be killed, certain times of year, so they're sure that the deer are always reproducing, so there are more deer to be shot. They manage deer for hunting. Hunting is a multi-million-dollar business in New York. They collect money from license, from taxes on bows, bolts, crossbows, ammunition, bullets. It's a business. And I would hope that you would, and anyone here on the board, to look at the DEC website, and it is awful. It's a hunting club. And if you look at the weapons used, there is no species that's not targeted. There is no, from rabbits to deer to moose, but we're talking about deer. And if you look at the pictures of some of these weapons, it's chilling. So you can look at any website online, just look up bow hunting, you'll see the crossbows, the compound bows, the bolts, it's terrifying. And I just want to mention that, well, I don't want to get into the thing about hunting and, how it also leads to, that's a different, serious crimes, like the Georgia, which just happened in Georgia. But even as far as this, everyone thinks it's just a cull. It's horrific. It's terribly painful for these animals. These arrows, they go in, they tend to rip them apart. It's just horrific. And I just want you to think about that when you vote to have this cull. And there are humane ways to deal with this, and they should be tried before you go to anything as drastic as this, if it is even needed. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll make one comment, and this is more a semantic comment, and that is, and it's out of respect for everybody who's made comments here. You refer to bow hunting, and what we are doing, while it does involve a bow and an arrow, it is from a single stand. Some of the statistics you have cited are people hunting in the woods.
Still hunting.
No, wait, hold on. Like I said, I'm talking about the references that were made, that's all, and the way it was described. I'm not making a comment on the good or the bad. That's for each person to make a judgment up here, and they will.
I just have to make one comment to
Yeah.
the fact that in Rockefeller, the hunting is done from stands as well. And the percentages are not good, so it's not people running around in the woods, they are shooting from stands as well.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, are there any other comments? Nothing online, right? All right, then I'm going to offer the
Close.
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah, go ahead.
Right.
No, let him.
It doesn't matter.
Okay.
So either before or after you
So then
close the hearing.
public hearing.
All right, motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, people want to comment on this, they're welcome to.
Yeah, I mean, I coming here tonight, I didn't have a really was not gonna relitigate the issue. I mean, sadly, the board has made a decision that I think is terrible to go forward with this program that I'm on the record as saying is immoral, is fiscally irresponsible, and is not likely to work. But the issue for me today is not that. The issue for me today, and by the way, it's certainly not humane, using that word just makes it up. It's like when the Republicans said the Defense of Marriage Act to make it so people can't get married. It's like those reverse terms. I have a PhD in political communication. I understand using terms like that to make things more palatable, and it doesn't change the fact that there's nothing humane about shooting an animal in the face with an arrow. But anyway, I didn't want to get into that. What I want to raise today's issue. Today's issue is whether we should amend the village codes for mid-development. And my comment on that is, regardless of this program, we have a village code right now that says that you can't hunt in the woods. And I think that's a really good provision. And I think once you start opening that up to exceptions, that is opening up a genie bottle that you can't put the cap back on. So we have now, if the board votes today to change this rule to allow this bow hunting program, it is a precedent that cannot be undone, essentially. Because forever it'll be like, well, you allowed it for this. And I'm just not comfortable with that, even beyond my opposition to the program, which I made loud and clear at every meeting that it's come up. I'm not even talking about that now. I am saying specifically for this provision, I oppose opening up a precedent to allow more hunting in the future. I mean, it's like turning the woods into a killing zone is not what I think is saving the woods. And I think this is yet another example of why this is a terrible idea. I oppose to change the code for that reason.
Okay. Thank you. Anybody else? Let me say a couple things. I found something out today that was kind of shocking to me, and that is that the police department has deer tags. And they have deer tags to deal with the number of accidents that occur between the deer and the automobiles in Irvington. I guess it's common enough that they required that they have those tags. I look at that. I look at the woods that I have walked through with people who are experts in vegetation, and I consider the fact that, and there is an economic calculus to this, I consider the fact that by allowing the woods to deteriorate to the point where it cannot hold the water that is at the top of this village, we will spend untold tens of millions of dollars, and we're already going to spend millions of dollars to try to manage that water as it flows downhill. And so that drives me to the conclusion that we need to do something. One can argue that, oh, we should be doing something else other than hunting. And you know what? I would love to have been persuaded that that's the right answer. However, I spent time talking to, I think, 10 different people. I described them before, and all of whom noted academics, people with PETA, people with the Humane Society, and people who have implemented programs like this. And I have also talked to people who have implemented fence programs, implemented contraception programs, all the things that everybody's told me, you should, if they're against it, you should do that because that's way better and it's way cheaper. And you know what? It's not. It's, in my opinion, excuse me, I don't mean to tell anybody else what they should think. I talked to the Humane Society, I think it was from Washington, D.C. They're the ones who helped Hastings implement the contraceptive program. And the first thing I was told by that guy was, yeah, that program did not work out very well. It's almost impossible to do. And that's why we haven't followed up on it. I can't, there's nobody, and I gave the community the opportunity to tell me anybody they wanted me to talk to. And I called every one of them. And and each of you got to talk to selectively because I could only have one other person without creating a board meeting. You all heard what I heard. I understand there's a moral objection. That,
It's not just that.
it's my turn. I let you speak and I respected your opportunity to speak. Let me. It gives me a knot in the stomach to make this kind of a decision, but I happen to know, personally, I feel that this is the right decision. Everybody else gets to make their own decision. but I believe in Irvington's best interest, it's the right thing to do. I'm also looking, it's not like we don't publicize our agendas, and it's not like people aren't aware of what we are doing in this regard. And the people who have come to object are not in the Irvington community. That speaks volumes to me. And I'm not, and I'm
I was
not,
about to say.
yeah, forgive me, I'm not excluding, I'm not excluding you. I'm saying I don't have a
Not
crowd in
me.
front of me.
Not me. I haven't come to a meeting and spoken for my.
No, I'm talking about right now.
Oh, today.
Yeah.
I'm talking about the first meeting.
Okay, that, yes. Although if you went by the numbers, and I don't do that, that's why I spent the time to go and look at and talk to all of these people, do my own research, because I don't want to make a decision based on what the largest number of people says, we should do this, we should do this. There are exceptions to that, this isn't one of them, because of the moral component to it. So that's how I arrived at my personal decision. Before I put the resolution to vote, does anybody else want to say something?
I mean, I'll say something.
Yeah.
I mean, I think this is not an easy decision. I think this is not an easy decision for me. I think it's something I thought a lot about. It's something that I participated in sort of calls and listening to what people had to say. I do think that, you know, if I thought we were just going to be like shooting deer and like not in a way that I personally felt or was convinced would be responsible, that I would not support it. Like, I think if we were shooting deer and they were running off, if we were like shooting and like, you know, we were gonna shoot kids and shoot animal, you know, dogs and all this other stuff, that I would not sit here, you know, coming to this decision in a thoughtful like place that was not an easy decision. I respect people who feel differently about this issue, I do. And I personally feel that it is important to monitor it, to make sure that we are doing this responsibly, that it is having an effect that we want it to have. And I don't believe that if that is not what happens, I don't also think that I would not change how I feel now about it. I would say we tried something based on what we thought could work. It did not work. And I would be the first to say, okay, this is not working. So this is why the monitoring of it is important to me. And again, I do not come to this at an easy place. It's not comfortable. I hear, you know, the objections. But I do think that we have a totality of circumstances to look at, and it is a really hard decision. And I think it's not one that I personally came to easily, but I feel comfortable where I am. I also am comfortable if it doesn't work to sort of say, this did not work, right? Like, I don't think that we have to, you know, prove, we have nothing to prove, right? We're trying to reach, you know, sort of a place where we can sort of manage for all different species, manage the, you know, our woods, and you know, I think it's clear over time that doing nothing is doing something too, right? It has a different effect. So, you know, I come to this decision comfortable. Not easily, but you know, I feel I have enough information.
Yeah, and I guess nothing new to add, but I think I agree with, you know, Arlene and John. I mean, it's not an easy thing. When we started talking to the different experts, I was hoping someone would tell us that there was another solution, but you know, we didn't hear that. In fact, we heard the opposite. You know, like John was saying, and nothing really worked. I mean, I think the one positive piece of feedback we got was that, you know, it sounds like, I think everyone we spoke to, including from, you know, PETA Humane Society, appreciated the fact that we were measuring the impact in a real way that's not self-fulfilling. Like, we don't want to measure how many deer there are because, well, if you're killing deer, yes, maybe there'll be less deer, but is it actually making a difference in the woods? And if it's not, then, you know, we can reevaluate. But like Arlene said, like, I mean, doing nothing is doing something. And I think, you know, we need to save the woods and promote regeneration. And I wish there was another thing to do, but it, from the research that we did, it feels like this is our best option.
I would only add to that, because you've just reminded me that those same experts, including the Humane Society, said they really appreciated the fact that we had spent the time to look at all of the various options, including the fencing, including the contraceptive, including every other option that anybody happened to name, that we had taken a thoughtful, scientific approach to it as best we could. That's all I want to say.
I just want to add one thing.
Yeah.
I have a lot of problems with how this came to the board, but I just don't want anyone to think that I have any ill will towards anyone on the board. I thought that everyone on the board behaved extremely exemplary in wanting to get information and come at this without any preconceived notions and interviewing the people. John was very open to interviewing anyone, literally anyone that people would send to him, he would talk to. And I also sat in on several of those calls, and I came to a different conclusion than my colleagues did. And I vigorously disagree with it, but when it comes to the process, I am completely in tune with the rest of the board. I felt that the board should be very proud of itself in the way that it conducted this, even though, in my opinion, it came to a bad decision.
Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to offer the following resolutions. Resolved, the proposed local law will have no negative environmental impacts, and further resolved, we're doing that for secret, I guess, resolved to adopt a local law amending the village code to permit bow hunting in limited circumstances. And those circumstances are when this is not part of the resolution, but it's limited to properties and times designated by the village board. So that's my motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Against?
Nay.
Okay. All right. Adoption of municipal, do you need this back, Larry?
No.
Okay. Adoption of municipal building energy benchmark policy.
By the way, the two of us are Greenberg residents. I did want to clarify that. And Irvington is part of Greenberg.
Understood.
We didn't just come from Manhattan.
No, I understood. I was only making the point that you're not from Irvington itself. But
But again,
I-
it's Greenberg.
I didn't deny you the opportunity to speak your mind.
Compassion for animals has no boundaries.
Very good. Adoption of municipal building energy benchmark policy. You want to talk about this at all, Larry?
Yeah, just quickly, it's a high impact item that New York State has identified to benchmark our buildings from an energy use standpoint. And so this is setting out a policy to do that. To the extent that we can gather data over time, we'll make sure that we publicize that, which is what the policy says. And it'll help us better understand how our buildings are performing in comparison to other similar buildings.
And is this for grants or?
It leads to it indirectly, yes.
Okay, all right. So the resolution is, I'm sorry, anybody have any questions? Okay, the motion is, whereas buildings are the single largest user of energy in the state of New York, the poorest performing buildings typically use several times the energy of the highest performing buildings for the exact same building use. And whereas collecting, reporting, and sharing building energy data on a regular basis allows municipal officials and the public to understand the energy performance of municipal buildings relative to similar buildings nationwide. And equipped with this information, the Village of Irvington is able to make smarter, more cost-effective operational and capital investment decisions, reward efficiency, and drive widespread continuous improvement. And whereas the Irvington Board of Trustees desires to use building energy benchmarking, a process of measuring a building's energy use, tracking that use over time, and comparing performance to similar buildings to promote the public health, safety, and welfare by making available good, actionable information on municipal building energy use to help identify opportunities to cut costs and reduce pollution in the village. And whereas the Irvington Board of Trustees desires to establish procedure or guideline for village staff to conduct such building energy benchmarking, now therefore be it resolved to adopt the Irvington Municipal Building Energy Benchmarking Policy dated September 3rd, 2024, which is included. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Good. Larry's, or maybe you'll do this later, the announcement about the additional grant that we got. I guess you could do this in your report, right? You were gonna steal Charlotte's fire, except she already got that out. She beat you to it.
I can, sure.
Okay, maybe later. Okay. I meant that, excuse me, tongue in cheek, obviously, you two had had a debate via email as to who was gonna make the announcement.
No.
Let's see, contract 2024-26 for Community Coalition Coordinator. Is it fair to assume this is the same comp as in prior years?
It is,
Okay.
yes.
This is the I whatever.
Yeah,
I
IS.
It's the 10 year of a 10-year grant, right?
This is actually it's actually year number 11 because there are leftover funds
Okay.
from
Yeah.
year 10 and prior that they're reprogramming, and but 11 will be it.
So at some point, we're gonna have to address this, either.
Whether we wanna fund it ourselves.
Yes,
Yeah.
Or some level of that, yes.
Yeah, I just wanna make sure we have a ramp up to that, like, I don't wanna show up at a meeting and be like, okay, here we go,
There'll be a discussion during the budget process this coming season, which is a
Okay.
good timing for that.
That's okay.
Yep.
Any other questions? Okay,
That's why I thought it was the 11th year, and that's why I asked, it's like, I'm glad I'm not going crazy.
oh, we were frugal for the first 10.
Going crazy, asking questions.
Fair point.
So the motion is, my motion is resolved to hire Lisa K. Tomeni as the Community Coalition Coordinator for 780 hours of work per year at the annual salary of $40,000 effective September 30, 2024 through September 29, 2025, which may be extended for an additional one-year term by mutual agreement, and to authorize the village administrator to execute said contract. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Okay. Next up is approval of contract 2024-28 with Culturally Responsive Environments and Discipline LLC. This is for implicit bias training for the village. And just so the community knows, we've had a lot of discussions behind the scenes about supplementing this with using our village attorneys to do an additional program that's a little more targeted to what Irvington can use, because this is broadly designed because we are participating with 5 other villages?
6 other.
6 other villages. And so we're gonna work out the details of supplement, but since this is coming up fast, I think dates in October, we're approving this now.
Quick question, though, because I just came from the library board meeting, unfortunately they coincided, I only 15 minutes there and then I ran, which I hate doing, but but it's better than nothing. And they actually asked about this because, Rosemary has to account for that, like with the time and everything.
Yes.
So she told me that she was told that all of the full-time, part-time people have to participate.
Yes, permanent part-time employees.
Part-time, that's what I meant, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
full-time, part-time makes no sense,
Yeah.
that's it, permanent part-time.
Yes.
So just to be clear, because I know we went back and forth on this a little bit in email and between the 2 programs, I just wanna have absolute clarity, who is taking this training?
All full-time and permanent part-time employees.
So like seasonal that we appointed
Seasonal
in
or
rec
not.
are not gonna be.
And what about
Correct.
the boards, does the library board and the theater commission and?
No, we made that, well, first of all, last year, we extended that offer to the land use boards. This year, we're not, because we're limited in a number that we can send to this.
Oh,
And we are picking up all, as best we can, of course, schedule-wise, but we're picking up all full-time, all of our police officers.
okay.
Last year was only the leadership in the police department, because they do have their own anti-bias training. So it's, we tried to make some judgment calls on who to invite. So this year, all the police officers will be invited, and will attend again, provided their schedules will accommodate this, which it should.
Yeah.
But we weren't able to extend it to the land use boards again.
Okay, I just wanted,
I have a couple of questions too. So is it mandatory or if their schedule allows?
It's mandatory for anyone that, any of the departments, the police department's the only real difficult one, because of the 12-hour schedule that they work, working overnights compared to daytime, and this is only offered during the day. So there's gonna be some scheduling issues that I don't think we're gonna be able to overcome.
Okay, and then what about all of the people who, I don't know what their position is, but all the people who work who do programming through rec, who are like instructors, do those people also go?
No.
Okay. So I feel strongly that everybody who's facing the public needs to be trained.
Is
We're gonna
there,
do a supplemental
Larry, did they do a,
Understood,
did they do a
but-
makeup?
understood, but
In
it's,
past years, there was like, I mean, when I came on, I was off cycle, I guess, and so I did an online makeup. Is there anything like that in this?
There was discussion about it. I don't know that it ended up in the contract, though.
All right. Might be worth, I mean, even if it's just Irvington that asks, or hey, can you run another one and try to catch as many people that we missed as we can.
Maybe it's be asynchronous, in other words, not, they can record something, and then you know, it's not at the same time, I don't know.
I wanna just say something publicly. I think that we've had so many discussions, by email over these programs. I think it's very important that our village staff, employees understand sort of what this board has, what's an important policy for this board, which is, we want to be a welcoming and inclusive community, and what that actually means, how that presents itself, what does it mean to have implicit bias, how that shows up in how people interact with the public, and what the legal ramifications of that are. So, I think, I just want to be very clear to the public that it's not some like light and intended to be some light and fluffy thing, but really an implementation of like one of the top three, sort of like guiding principles that has led this board, and that it really needs to be something that makes its way through our organization, and not something that's light and fluffy and to be sort of like a chore, right? But more of like, this is what our policy is, and it has real implications for how we see our village
Yeah,
going
if for no
forward.
other reason, then it causes potential significant liability for the
Correct.
rail, period.
Why was
End
it?
of
Yeah.
story.
Yeah, which is, I agree with you, but it's not just the board's policy, it's what state law says that they have to do as well.
True, but
Yeah.
that's already exists, right? But I think it's
But they
this
need to know
idea, they need to understand all those ramifications, which has not really kind of made its way through this organization, which needs to, because it has, again, legal implications that are important. And so it's not just, that's why I keep saying the word light and fluffy, right? It's like, not this like light and fluffy thing, be nice to each other kind of thing, but here's how implicit bias shows up. What is implicit bias? Why is that important, right? Because why? Well, it does have legal implications. It has liability for the village if employees don't act, in a certain way, and if supervisors, importantly, don't know what their role is in this organization, right? So I think it's something that is very critical and not something that is just because we want people to feel a certain way about other people. Yeah.
So maybe Larry, at the, when we've gone through the cycle of the three, I guess it's 6 sessions, they're doing 2 a days. Let's just see who missed, and we'll see what we want to do next.
I just wanna note that I'm gonna vote for this, because I think this is a positive thing, and it's a relatively small amount of money.
Yeah, agreed.
But I do think that it's not enough, and we need to have a much more legally focused training for our village employees, so we can for liability purposes.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm not ashamed to say that,
Yeah.
and I think I think it's also important that everyone who works in the village understands what the law is, what the board's policy is, what behavior will lead to what consequences, so that everything is clear and everything is out there, and nobody can ever say, well, I didn't know. And I think that's really a key of the training, from my point of view.
I agree with that.
All right, so my motion is resolved to approve the agreement with Culturally Responsive Environments and Discipline LLC in the amount of $2,571.43 for implicit bias training, and authorize the village administrator to execute said agreement. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. We have 2 resignations from the Recreation and Parks Advisory Committee. Jane Ann Cavallo and John Kashkin. I want to thank them both for the service they performed on RPAC. I'll give you the motion to accept. My motion is resolved to accept with regret the resignations of Jane Ann Cavallaro and John Kashkin as members of the Recreation and Parks Advisory Committee effective September 16th, 2024. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Good, did you want to say something?
No, I think we really have to vote when people step down? It just seems so weird, like.
You're
the
just to
program
accept the
there.
resignation. In a sense, you're probably just making sure it gets into the record.
It puts it in the record. I mean,
Yeah, I
that's,
just-
that's the best explanation I've been able to come up with.
It makes me feel thinking, like, what's my, like, I have no say in that, like, I
know.
can't say, no, you can't resign, I mean, it's like, it just feels weird.
Well,
I know, I'm
If
just.
nothing else, you're also acknowledging that it's to them that you got it.
Okay, that's, can we motion me that we acknowledge acceptance of your resignation?
We could probably do it that way in the
I'm
future.
sorry to be difficult, it
Yeah,
just
yeah.
feels weird every time,
Yes.
I feel icky.
I know. I'm telling you, we do it at a corporate level too, you know, in a private business
Yeah,
too,
yeah.
so. It keeps lawyers employed. It's important.
I'll shut up.
All right. Okay, next up is appointments to the Irvington Woods Committee. Joey Sotile, Bruce Bell, and Mitch Adler as members. And I believe they've all talked to the chair of the Woods Committee. That's a nod, yes, okay, good. And I'm pretty sure I've sent all of you the bios at the same time I sent it to the chair of the Woods Committee. So the motion is resolved to appoint the following as members to the Irvington Woods Committee with a term to expire December 2024. Is that just because they're filling spots?
They're only one-year terms, so that's,
Oh, so we
Yeah,
have to re-up them when we do
Yes.
organizational?
Correct.
Okay. Joey Sotel member, Bruce Bell member, and Mitch Adler member. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. And then somebody new for the tree commission, eminently qualified. And also talk to the chair of the tree commission. And my motion is resolved to appoint the following as a member to the Tree Preservation Commission with a term to expire December 2025. Lindsay Tower as member. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, now the tax certs. Just as an overriding question, Council for Greenberg leads the negotiations on these, and then they say, here's what, are you willing to sign on to this to us?
It's between
Because I know they maintain our
the
role.
town and school district attorneys, and then we consult with the village,
Got it.
Ed Lammers in the village attorney's office. So he reviewed all three of these, and his recommendation is that we don't believe a better result could be achieved as a result of a trial.
Got it.
Language it says every single time.
Yes.
Yeah, no problem. Okay, so, I guess the best way to do this is just read the resolutions each time.
I mean, you can read through it once and substitute different facts, it's
Fine,
up to
no
you,
problem,
but,
that's good.
yeah.
So my motion is whereas petitions have been filed by the Ardsley Country Club, here and after petitioner, challenging real property tax assessments on the village's assessment roll with respect to the subject property for the 2019-20 tax years. And then they refer to the block and lot numbers. Whereas petitioner's actions are now pending in the Supreme Court, Westchester County, whereas the town and petitioner have reached a mutually agreeable resolution. Now, therefore, the Office of the Village Attorney is authorized to effectuate a settlement commensurate with the following. And in 2019, the original assessment of $5,788,100 becomes $4,792,220, which is a $995,880 reduction. And in 2020, the original assessment, also 5.7881 million, is revised to an assessment of $5,152,220, which is a $635,880 reduction. And our share, Irvington's share of the refund is $12,751.71. I assume that comes out of the general fund.
We have a tax tertiary
Ah.
line in the budget,
Got it,
so
okay.
that's accounted for.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, next up, the petitions filed by Laxmi Malhotra challenging real property tax assessments in Irvington and Greenberg with respect to the subject property for 2022 and 2023 assessment years with respect to parcels designated section 2.120, block 60, lot 8. And it references the property owner, Laxmi Malhotra, at 10 Half Moon Lane, and the assessment years 2022-23. Whereas petitioner's actions are now pending in Supreme Court, Westchester County, whereas the town and petitioner have reached a mutually agreeable resolution, now therefore the village is authorized to effectuate a settlement commensurate with the following terms. In 2022, the original assessment was $4,031,500. The revised assessment is $3,395,000, which amounts to a $636,500 reduction. 2023, the original assessment is $703,600, and the revised assessment is $2,975,000, which is a $728,600 reduction. The Village of Irvington's share of the refund is $10,646.52. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Last one relates to 55 Dogwood Lane. Whereas petitions have been filed by Simon LeBoric, challenging real property tax assessments on the Village of Irvington, the town of Greenberg's assessment roll. With respect to the subject property for 2019, 2021, 2022, and 2023 assessment years with respect to the parcel designated as section 2.90, block 45, lot 12. And then it references the property owner side of the Borough, 55 Dogwood Lane, and the tax years of 2019, 2021, 2022, and 2023. Whereas petitioner's actions are now pending in Supreme Court, Westchester County, and whereas the town and the petitioner have reached a mutually agreeable resolution, now therefore the village is authorized to effectuate a settlement commensurate with the following terms. In 2019, the original assessment was $718,800. It stays the same in the revised assessment, so no reduction. In 21, the assessment was, the original assessment, $872,100. The revised assessment is $825,000, which is a reduction of $47,100. In 2022, the original assessment was $924,400. The revised is $850,000, and the reduction is $74,400. In 2023, the assessment is $976,700. The revised assessment is $850,000. The reduction is $126,700. The Village of Irvington's share of the refund is $1,942.23. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Good. Reports of boards, standing committees, and officers. Would you like to
Yes.
go first?
Got a couple updates. First, from the building department. They've been busy with permits and certificates of occupancy. It appears the spring rush has not ended yet. The rush of home sales has brought up a lot of undocumented work for sellers and held up some closings. Some of the larger single-family home projects have been coming to an end. 3040 South Broadway has started on their model home. The developer for 3040 South Broadway will start work on the Field Point parking lot and plant the Broadway buffer in front of the old FEE property in October. They're having some difficulty with contractors not following the plan that was submitted and approved by the planning board, and they're trying to figure out a better way for compliance, especially in environmental sensitive areas. The theater is looking good, and the sidewalks on Astor Street are almost done. Secondly, from the Tree Preservation Committee, trees and wells with metal grates are being installed in 5 locations on Main Street and South Broadway in the next week. This is part of an ongoing project to refurbish the tree plantings along our main village artery. All of the trees this year are native. Additionally, 5 new native trees are being planted in the Central Village area this fall. Trees are our best and least expensive defense against the increase in the urban heat index, and the TPC continues to monitor blocks within adequate shade cover for opportunities to plant new trees. Otherwise, tree removal applications are on par with previous years, and most residents seem to be enthusiastic about replacing the removed trees with native trees. The Con Ed pruning contractor has been in the village for the past week, and the TPC has been fielding a lot of queries from residents regarding what appears to be overly heavy pruning. They've spoken to DPW to make sure the contractor is respectful of our village trees, while also explaining to residents the importance of maintaining our grid, especially in light of what appears to be increasing storm strength. It's a tricky balance, and most residents seem to understand the importance of the pruning when explained in this manner. That is it.
Since you mentioned Con Ed, I guess as a preview of what is to come, there's going to be gas line work on Main Street and the side streets. The village will put out repeated announcements as it moves along. And so we're going to all have to work just to manage as they move through the village. just do this?
Yeah, they have to redo it.
You say that so matter of factly.
Hey, Larry's been here
I
35
make
years.
no
This is
make
not
no
the first-
judgments. I
Yeah,
make
this
no
is not the
judgments.
first time.
I'm just reporting the facts.
The last time wasn't fun.
Nope, and I imagine this one won't be either, but this time, we're gonna make sure everybody knows every move that they're making as best we can. And we will post signs, on the streets. Okay, if you'd like to go.
Peter, I don't wanna take their thunder and say too much, but I will say that an opening night event has a
We're
contract
getting
has been
close.
signed. And I can tell you that it's going to be awesome. I can't say any more than that, but please keep your eye on it, it's gonna be really, really great. The library, it's library card sign up month, so they're urging everyone to go and sign up if you don't have a library card, and adults who enter in, adults who sign up for a new library card this month are gonna be entering into a raffle for some small but lovely prizes. It took me a lot of crafting to use those words. Also, you might notice, speaking of construction, it seems to be the theme tonight. There's construction going on in front of the library. It's to improve handicap access, so it's actually a good reason, even though it's not fun.
Is that the sidewalk piece?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
That's great.
Larry reported on that, yeah.
Yes, sorry, but they wanted to make sure everyone knows that they're open.
Yeah.
Right, that's not they're keeping the same hours, it's not affecting their hours. And I always point out some interesting events they have coming up, and on Friday at 10:30 a.m., it's senior movie morning. So I think they're showing a movie called Queen Bees, and it looks like the protagonists are all elderly people. So it looks like it would be fun, but that's a great idea, that Friday morning movie section. That's all I got.
Great.
So from the water department, I'm just gonna read off a report from James Englishby. So some of their water department activities, reading the water meters, working on a village-wide service line survey for the EPA and Westchester County Health Department. They delivered lead and copper line surveys to approximately 400 locations, starting the fall maintenance water department areas, repaired and replaced piping in South Astor Sewer Pump Station, replaced control panel in South Astor Sewer Pump Station, had wet wells at both sewer pump station clean, performed triannual lead and copper sampling, prepared for fall hydrant flushing. Fall hydrant flushing is my favorite on the River Road. Looks like there's a river there. Chlorine booster system rebuilt at Mountain Road chemical feed building, jetting and cleaning various sewer pipes throughout the village. Duke's root control came to treat sewer pipes at various locations throughout the village, installed fire hydrant and T at the intersection of Castle Road and Pallister Road, painted the hydrants at various locations, installed new fire hydrant in front of 55 Manor Pond Lane, and repaired the Ardsley Avenue pressure reducing valve. I have lots of stuff today. Okay, everyone was very, okay. So from the GPTF, they're working on a project with the New York State Office of Parks, Recreation, Historic Preservation, and Lower Hudson Valley Partnership for Regional Invasive Species Management, PRISM, to remove several trees of heaven from 2 areas on the Old Croton Aqueduct in Irvington by the Irvington Estates and the Community Pollinator Garden between MSS and Matheson Road. Tree of Heaven is a non-native, very invasive and fast-growing plant due to its shallow root system. It's becoming a hazardous tree as it is prone to fall down during storms. Moreover, it is a preferred host tree for those nasty spotted lanternflies. Based on the protocol recommended by the New York State Parks, which entails partial girdling, paired with applying herbicides in the cuts, the recommended treatment was conducted by the Lower Hudson PRISM on September 5th, and the New York State Parks will cut trees down 60 days later. Once the invasive trees are removed, a significant restoration project will take place where they'll be engaging with the community to help raise funds, plant native plants, and perform long-term maintenance. GPTF connected with Reverend Dr. Blaine Crawford and the Irvington Presbyterian Church, who expressed a strong interest in partnering on this project. GPTF is also going to be reaching out to the local Girl and Boy Scout troops and their looking for volunteers. I'm not gonna talk about the silver status, woo-hoo, but she said PS, I'm gonna leave that to you. Okay. Oh, you didn't talk about you Route 9, did you wanna mention that?
I mean, we can talk about it. There was an open house on
Right.
Thursday night, and there'll be another one this Thursday night
Mhm.
or two for the public to come out and see what the state and the state's engineer consultants are proposing for the corridor along Route 9 from Hastings up to Sleepy Hollow.
And it's worth paying attention to, because if you think Con Ed is on Main Street is problematic when they
Yeah.
rebuild Broadway.
Well, and I think, yes, but I think the bigger question is, do you want them to do what they're proposing doing? What
Of
changes
course.
would you like to
Yeah,
make?
yeah, You want to participate in the process.
Right, so Larry and I, along with Leo and Speck, are the Irvington delegates to the committee of the villages that is like working with the state, trying to get them to do what we want. Questionable whether they are or not. And we were at the meet, well, Larry, you weren't at this one either, so it's fine. But Leo and I were there, and we acted as facilitators for the exercises that the state and the consultants asked the people who attended to go through. So I was at a table, mostly people from Dobbs Ferry, I think there was one person from Irvington, and kind of helped them work through the process and get their comments out there.
Yeah, and the second public workshop is on Thursday, as you
It's
said?
Thursday at the Tarrytown
Correct.
Library.
6 to 8
I'm
p.m.
sorry,
No,
senior center.
Senior
Sorry,
center.
senior center.
Senior center.
Our meeting was at the library, this
Yes.
is at the senior
Yes.
center, yes.
Okay, so from the DPW, they always have a long list, and it doesn't include everything they do. They assisted Parks and Rec with, okay, I'm not gonna read all of this, because we all know all the things that DPW does, and this is probably not an inclusive list, but they definitely, worked all around town, as they always do, keeping everything fantastic, okay. And then from the police department, they have a car seat check on Sunday, 9/22, from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. in front of police headquarters. Also, they wanted me to remind everybody to please stay vigilant in locking their vehicles and their homes day and night.
Good advice.
That's it.
Village administrator.
Well, so I guess I get to talk about the silver status, is that the idea? Okay, so, as you probably heard, the village was awarded silver status under the Climate Smart Communities Program of New York State DEC. The effort was, it was quite an effort. Charlotte Binns was largely responsible for leading that effort, along with a number of volunteers. I'm not going to try to name them all.
You might want to mention that there is no gold status. I think right now is the
Right.
silver status as high as you can get.
That's all they have,
Yeah.
yeah. And they were able to achieve even far more than the number of points that were required. I think 300 points were required. They achieved, well into the 300s. Yeah, mid 300s they achieved. So we helped along the way, but mostly I just stayed out of Charlotte's way and helped where we could. So she did a great job with that.
Thank
So
you,
that,
Charlotte.
yeah,
And
absolutely.
Larry. Even if it was.
And all the volunteers,
And all the
really.
volunteers.
Yeah, that's really where
Volunteers,
that's really
yes.
where the work was done. But interestingly, that silver status doesn't actually come with any money. But a side benefit of it is that a number of the actions that we had to document were submitted to a kind of a sister program called the Clean Energy Communities Program. And that program does come with money. And we were notified that we are the recipient of a multiple grants that total a little over $200,000. And we're waiting on one more announcement for another 250,000. So it could be, over 400 that is achieved under that program. All of those monies need to be used for energy savings measures, which we have plenty to choose from, I think. So we'll be,
That's why it's worth adopting the energy policy to measure,
Yeah.
see where you need it.
exactly.
Yeah.
So it's, that's actually, it's exceptional news, that
amazing.
kind of money.
It's great.
And there'll be other opportunities too, right? The fact that we're silver allows us to do certain things, right?
Yeah, well, we have to see what New York State follows up with in terms of this Clean Energy Communities Program. They did put a significant amount of money into it, and we took advantage of that. But they continually have been renewing that program with either additional money or different types of focuses. So we're going to keep an eye on it.
That's great. Is that it? Okay.
That's enough.
Thank
Do
you.
we have to be silver to apply for those funds, or having silver status help with those?
The actions that we took to qualify for silver, some of them were able to be submitted kind of in parallel with the clean energy community. So it's an indirect connection.
Okay.
But it took the work of all the volunteers to get there.
That's great.
Yeah.
Village clerk treasurer's report.
No report this week.
Okay, village attorney's report.
No report, thanks.
Thank you for your patience then in hanging on. Make sure we didn't get into trouble. Public comment, anybody else? Oh, come on up.
First, I've just been wanting to actually say for a long time, thank you for passing the gas leaf blower ban. I'm asthmatic, and between the air quality difference and the noise pollution, it makes a huge difference in my life and my family. But this meeting tonight had me thinking that about we're not always going to all agree on issues that come up before us, but I have a lot of respect for the way that you all handle lots of different opinions, lots of different requests with thoughtful and respectful consideration. I think Matheson Park is amazing now. I have lived here 13 years, and we used the park then. My children are aging out, but they still use it a little because they love the splash pad. And I think it's great that it's being so much used so much. And I think this board gets a lot of great work done, and I just wanted to say thank you.
Thank you.
Really short comments. On the solar for the senior center, I just want to encourage the village to do as much solar as they can. My personal experience is a little over a year ago, I put solar on my house on Cottonette Street. And originally I thought, yeah, okay, these guys are giving you these statistics about this and that, et cetera. For a full 12 months, I've had 0 electric bill every single month.
Pretty good.
And it's going to pay for itself much faster than I thought it was. So my only argument is that Con Ed doesn't give you money if you give them back too much energy. So that'll be our next fight. Good we're doing that. And that's it. Thank you guys so
Thank you.
much.
Appreciate it. Oh,
Is there any success on getting the pro-housing community application in?
We have the analysis of the zoning code complete. We just have to pull together some building statistics, and then that'll be submitted. We have our portal set up by the state, and we're ready to populate that. It's just the housing information that we need to pull together.
A rough timing?
It's going to be probably a month. Yeah.
Sweet, thank you.
Sure.
you got too many hats, David. I don't know where your questions are gonna come from. Okay, anybody else? Thank you. All right, then I will make a motion to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Thanks, everybody.
Hey, while I'm on, Mitch, can you hear me?
Yes. Yes.
During the
can.
meeting, you must have your mic, you're really hard to hear.
Well, I'm sure people appreciate that.
Just so you know, everybody else you can hear loud and clear, but you can hardly hear you, so I think you have to adjust your mic.
Yeah, I think I move it to the side so it's not in the way of my computer. I'll have to work something out.
Yeah,
But thank you for telling me that. I appreciate it.
yeah, you
Thank
wouldn't
you.
know otherwise, right?
Thank
Okay.
you.
Thanks, Mary Ann.